All right, what is up, my friends? Welcome to another video. If you're brand new to the channel, you got shared this, or you just found us out for the first time, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell notification. That way you don't miss out on any updates. Today, we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, one that I'm sure will bring the triggers to the yard, and that is the insanity that social media is creating. This is take 2 of this video. Sometimes you got to get out a much harsher version of what you want to say to get to the nice version. But the title of this video and what I want to talk about is how I feel that right now is one of the easiest times to get whatever you want in America. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So stay tuned, get your coffee, get your caffeinated drink, and let's dive into it. Okay, so it's clear, we all see it right now, that there is a divide happening in America. It is being done on purpose. It is being fueled by billions of dollars. That is undeniable. It is against gender. It is against race. It is a division of everybody and everything. And it is done on purpose because a divided, separated, segmented population is much weaker than a united one. A united front is always stronger. That is why that is a saying in war, because that is what they do. It's working. Needless to say, woke media is not working. Actually, woke media is doing very bad. So it proves that the topics themselves aren't fueled by real thought and real people as much as narrative. Okay, so the narrative, though, is overall, I would say, working. It is working to divide people on social media, and that is quickly pouring into everyday life. People are taking what is happening on social media and bringing it into real life. This is happening with shootings, whether you believe those are real or not. This is happening with people's opinions on politics, and it's all being driven by this current administration in the United States White House. Okay, so why I feel that right now is the easiest time. That's a bold statement, right? Easiest time to get what you want in America, because so many people have given up. I don't even want to know what the modern workplace is like, but I just imagine it is fueled with all the race bait conversation, gender bait conversations that you see on social media are pouring into the workplace. Now, do you think that adds to productivity or takes away from productivity? Okay, good guess. Takes away from productivity. And the reason why is because it's not empowering conversation. It's not hopium. It's not good speak. It is an invitation into a rabbit hole of all the variations of opinion that exist in all of us. So chances are you're not going to come to agreements once you've gone into that rabbit hole. And you're going to take the rabbit hole where you want it to go. And the conversation, you're going to try and direct it to the topics you want to talk about, and the things on your mind, and the things that you don't like. And then the other person's going to try and do the same thing, which is doing what? Creating conflict. Because nobody's accepting where they're at. Nobody's accepting each other. It's an argument to win the conversation based on my opinions, and my way of seeing things are better than yours. So if you could just set all that aside, just imagine now, for people who don't live in America, which I predominantly don't. I was actually gone for a really, really long time, just came back. I've been back for 2 weeks, and I can say that it has gotten worse. It has gotten much worse, and therefore it is now much easier to navigate around the shit and get what you want. Okay? Imagine if you could just set all that aside, and you didn't fall for that. You weren't sitting around on social media just behind the keyboard ready to respond to somebody who didn't like your tweet or somebody who didn't like your Facebook post. That's most people. Now imagine if you didn't do that, how much you could get done in a day. How much more emotionally inclined you would be, productive you would be. You'd actually be able to hit a state of flow and get things done, get a lot of things done. So we can all agree that productivity is probably down. That's a safe assumption, productivity being down in the workplace. Because everyone, not everyone, but I'm speaking in generalities too, take that into consideration, that so many people are being overwhelmed by the narratives, by mainstream media, and by who's right. Like, it's almost like at the end of the day, their head is so spun around that they don't know which way is up. Who's right in this? Who's wrong? Who's the good guys? Who's the bad guys, right? Because there's quite a few narratives going around now. Okay, so how do we actually navigate through this? I want to give you a simple framework that will help you turn the tide and become a more self-actualized individual. Remember Abraham Maslow, Hierarchy of Needs? Okay, if not, revisit that book, worth a read. Worth exploring his work, 100%. He definitely dedicated a lot of his life towards the good work, okay? All this boils down to awareness, right? You have to be able to recognize your own insanity. Whether, let's admit we all live in our own delusion, which I think is great. You need to be delusional when you're starting a new business, when you're trying something new, when you're taking a risk that everyone else is telling you not to take because maybe they're scared or they just want the best for you, or it's something that they're not familiar with, so they're just, again, projecting their fears onto you. Now, I'm going to assume that this has nothing to do with it being just like a really stupid direction of you to take your life, right? Like maybe doing drugs every day, or, starting to drink alcohol every day. That's not, you're not facing resistance from people around you in your life because that's a good thing. You're facing resistance because it's dumb. Awareness is key. You have to be able to recognize your own delusion. Delusion is good in many ways, and it can hinder you in many other ways, okay? So you have to be aware of the awareness even. And we could get into some deeper layers of this about intuition and trusting your gut feeling, but a lot of those natural muscles and mechanisms in the Western world anyways are worn out, and they are not finely tuned. You have to really escape the rat race and get out of that shell, that ecosystem, to start to fine tune that again, okay? And a lot of this is because things are so vain in America, right? There's, you don't see people just walking around in crappy shorts and an off-brand t-shirt. It's like everything has to be designer. I gotta get dressed up to go walk my dogs. I gotta wear aerobic exercise stuff so that I look like I'm fit and I'm taking my life serious. Then when I'm, at different other parts of the day, I have to dress up in this other different way. It's like everyone's playing this dress up game. Nobody's really remembering that none of that matters, okay? Absolutely doesn't matter. And especially if you're not financially free and you're playing that game and maxing out credit cards and living off to get these liabilities, then I'd say that's even more ignorant. But you cannot tell an irrational person that. You cannot explain logic to an irrational person. So how do we shift ourselves? If we're an irrational person, what changes that? What shifts that? There's a lot of different ways, actually. It's all based around being by yourself, taking time to be by yourself. Meditation, float tank, walk in the woods, take a hike, go outdoors, be in nature, sit with yourself. No electronics. Just sit and start to recognize as the inner dialogue. It's going to start to creep in, obviously. Oh, because I'm so busy, I've got all these important things to think about. We have to get to a place to where we recognize the two different pieces, the duality, right? The conscious mind and the subconscious mind. We have to be able to clarify between the ego, which is that inner chatter that's constantly telling us, you got this to worry about. Remember bills, remember project due dates, remember this, pick up the kids at 3, eat your food, and you have to just let all that go and go inside. Outside is the 5 sense model, right? All of our senses, smelling, touching, hearing, seeing, right? Inside is nonsense, no sense. And the more you do that, the more you start to gain back control of your emotions. You start to see things more clearly. You start to regain control. Because how many of you right now are feeling out of control, right? I think that's pretty common, actually. They are feeling not in control, okay? Not in control of their life, not in control of direction. And this causes you to tend to stay emotional. So you have to be able to take that time every single day. Yes, it's worth it. No, it's not hard. You don't need to retreat to Tibet and go to the Alps or the Himalayas and just relinquish attachment to all things and meditate with the gurus for the next 40 years to attain something. Okay, you can do it without that. Oh, that's an awful number 2. Oh my God, that's like a little kid wrote it. We got to try that again. Fam. You don't need to retreat there. I actually have spent a lot of time around a lot of holy people, and I know that makes people uncomfortable. They don't like to hear that. And usually there's like some sort of like imposed betterness. Like people tend to act like they're better than somebody else because they've done those things and been there. That's not the case. There's a lot we can learn from the East, right? Not just with medicine, but with oneness, getting back to the important truths of the universe. Okay, now all of these things to the person who is right now active in the 5 sense model sounds absurd, right? You're going, oh yeah, I heard about meditation. Oh yeah, I heard about yoga. Oh yeah. I go to yoga every Thursday. But if you go to yoga every Thursday and as you're pulling out of the parking lot, you're honking the horn and screaming, fuck you. Do you think you're getting the point? Do you think you're seeing what you're supposed to be seeing? No. So time for yourself. And this, again, that's like the big, the objection there is that I don't have time. I don't even have time for myself. Jay, you don't understand. You don't get it. It's just go, go, go. There really actually is a beautiful balance to a go, go, go lifestyle and an active spiritual person who a self-actualizing individual. Leave religion, leave spirituality out of it. A self-actualizing individual that is in tune with themselves, okay? And the more you start to do this, you start to actually draw away from the pig pen where everyone's rolling around in the mud, throwing mud at each other. And that's really one of the things that you should be fighting for right now, because what we're seeing, especially with the West, I don't really see this in Asia. I mostly live in Asia, and I don't really see it out there, is that the West has failed to integrate technology into their lives. They failed to accept, draw boundaries, and to integrate technology, social media, and access. You have instant access to almost everything. This should be an amazing, beautiful thing, but it has been turned against us. It has been weaponized against us in an attempt to keep control, to keep the power. Meditation is the first route. And usually when you start to meditate or yoga or anything, right, there's a million different ways to do this. Read 15, 20 minutes a day is you start to realize just how kind of ridiculous you're being. Because part of, I think, the self-awareness path is that you tend to realize that it's not so serious and you don't need to take yourself so serious. If you want to go that way and play that game, like, for as much as it's serious, it's not serious, right? That's the first thing, is starting to do that and remembering the divide between the conscious and subconscious, the sense and the no sense. Okay, next thing we need to talk about is self-image, self-confidence, inner value, inner beauty, whatever you want to label it, right? So you look around the United States right now, you look around America right now, and I don't know why, but it's like we pivoted quite quickly from this realm of laughing at the Kardashians and people like them to idolizing them. It's like because they didn't give up and because they were just in your face all the time with this reality TV show, that at some point people just, it like flipped and they're like, well, yeah, no, these are authorities. These are trusted people. This is what we should strive to be. And unfortunately, you see this a lot with women, and then, men play along with it, and we play our role. It's a 50-50 role in this disaster that we're in, where self-image and self-confidence is at an all-time low. Insecurity is at an all-time high. And you can see this because anyone who's willing to inject stuff into their body to make them look differently instead of maybe hard work or even maybe, call me crazy, but self-acceptance, they are not happy. They are not confident. They are not secure with themselves. They are, in fact, insecure. They are inches away from just being programmed by somebody who comes along with a better set of ideas and beliefs. Okay, so unfortunately, that has motivated and inspired a lot of young women, especially using the Kardashian example, to do similar. And then guys, we play our role by saying that, ooh, yeah, that's beautiful, because we give it attention. That is now deemed beautiful. And so then women are thinking, okay, well, that's my value. Your value is innate. So you have to get that through your head first. You have to be okay with yourself. You have to get to the point to where you don't give a fuck what I think of you or anybody else thinks of you. You go into the grocery store, you're wearing the shittiest clothing, you smell like crap. Who cares? You're there to get groceries so that you can go home and cook your food and live the rest of your life. You don't really care if you got enough makeup on. You don't really care if you're wearing the right outfit and the sneakers that still have the zip tie bullshit on them. Whatever is cool, I don't even know. Because you see, I don't care. So that doesn't affect my life. The way everyone's just all of a sudden believing in this 5 cents model so deeply that it's removed them from some of these truths. So the self-image game is probably, I actually think that's more important than meditation, but they are both key pieces. So you have to get to the point where you love yourself. Men, you have to love yourself. Women, you have to love yourself. You have to be okay with looking in the mirror and accepting who you are. You have to take a look at the world around you, your life, and accept it. You might not like it, but you have to accept it. Because if we're constantly guilting and shaming and moving away from our life and ashamed with ourselves and not happy with ourselves and not happy with our life, then that does not motivate us. That guilt and shame just drags us down. It is an energetic loop that is opened up that we need to close. And it's only once you can close that you can then actually start to move on. Self-image is a big piece of this. Have to be okay with yourself. Have to be able to accept your current reality. Actually, I want to break this out into number 3. I full-time little kid outside of doing this YouTube channel, in case you were wondering. And I've shot and talked about this before. Acceptance. Accept your current reality. Even though you don't like it, you can change it. But you can't hide from what's going on right now. You can't hide from your life right now. You have to accept what's going on, okay? And you have to accept that right now, whether you love the president or you hate the president, that he is the president. So if you want to make a change, then yes, little old you, yes, one person can make a change. I would get, first of all, crystal clear on who you are and what you stand for. And then you can start to go out and market yourself, market your message. And I would actually suggest that if that's the route you're going to go, focus on the message over the messenger. People get really caught up in the messenger And then they start to pick each other apart because it's part of this vain, judgmental society that America has chosen to live in. A lot of other parts of the world don't behave that way. If somebody walks by in a stupid outfit, it doesn't stop everybody and they sit there and snicker their teeth and say, gosh, how come she's wearing that? Look at that car. There's a key scratch there. Oh, they haven't washed their car. Those things don't actually exist in most places. It's America that's actually like promoted that and rallied that. And so because a lot of countries look up to America, they have adopted those bad habits. That's not because it's true. It's just a bad habit. Okay, you need to be able to tell the difference. And that all goes back to self-image. Like, you got to be okay with yourself. So if you've got a message that you think is better or different than the message that you're seeing being, rallied around right now, then first you need to be clear and confident with yourself. Because if you're going to go out into the limelight, especially right now, then you need to have your defenses built up. You need to be ready for what's going to come at you, because everyone's going to come at you. And they are going to throw everything that they can. They're going to dig into the deepest, darkest areas of your life, your past, and you got to be okay with that. So do you think if you've got childhood trauma still, or mommy and daddy issues, which we all have, do you think if you've got that stuff that you're going to be okay to, start campaigning yourself and to start promoting your ideas out there? Because the minute somebody brings that up, you're going to crack. You're going to fall right back into that destructive loop of emotional behavior, right? Instead of having your emotions in check. So coming back to my core point, right now is the easiest time ever to get everything you want in America. Do you see? It's simple and it's easy. But it requires work, and it requires a level of commitment that most people, like always, are just not willing to do. Because they're not willing to do it, they will not reap the benefits. They will not reap the rewards. But I'm telling you right now, there's a small demographic of people who are just going nuts right now. And they're growing their businesses, and they're making money. They're accessing the cheap cash that exists. They're not being held back by their beliefs, their biases. They're not spending all day long arguing on social media. So this is the thing that I suggest you pay attention to, especially if you recognize that you yourself are falling for all of this stuff on a constant basis. You need to get to work on these things. Spend some time with yourself. Recognize that there is this duality, inside and outside, senses, no sense, and make a clear divide. This will help the emotional intelligence. You will get more emotionally intelligent as time goes on. Because of what? Because of the awareness. Then you'll start to catch yourself as you get triggered into these behavior patterns and these loops, these default loops, and you'll be able to reprogram those and stop doing that so that you can focus on the things that move the needle forward, that help you, that help your family, right? Self-image is another one, because for you to really thrive in this time frame, in this period of time, you need to be okay with yourself enough so that you can step out and be bold, because it definitely is a time to be bold, right? But you cannot be bold and insecure at the same time, because it doesn't last. You end up being one of the many disasters that exist on YouTube that are just emotional wrecks, that one day they're okay, and then an article comes out about them and they're crying on the kitchen floor the next day about how they're being abused. And they're constantly trying to play both sides of the coin, victim and empowered at the same time. Okay? And we've all seen many, many examples of those disasters. So don't be that person. Just take the time, invest in yourself so that you are okay with yourself. Everything that's going on right now in your reality is changeable, but it is going on right now. So you must accept that that is going on right now in this moment. Now, I don't have to like it, and I can make change. I can go to work on making change, and then my reality changes. My future reality changes. So right now in this moment, what we're really building is our future reality. Everything that I'm doing right now builds the next 30, 60, 90 days. With my money, with my business, with my success, with my emotions, with everything, right? So that's the stuff that nobody really talks about, but it matters the most. Especially right now, especially in this time. So regardless of where you're at, if you're sick and tired of a lot of what's been going on and how you've been behaving and the result that you've been getting, this is how you change it, my friends. This is how you do it. Okay, that's all I've got for you. If you like this video, click the like button. If this is the first time here, somebody shared this video out, awesome, thank you. Glad you're here. Click the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so that this shows up on more feeds, more people get involved with this content, okay? If you got something to say, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below, and all the links, everything you need underneath this video. Take a second, check it out. Be on the lookout. More videos dropping soon, my friends. Bye.